right? So today we are going to see one of the topic, chaining. So in the Postman also, we have seen the same concept for Go REST API. So we have seen Go REST API, right? So same API, we are going to see chaining in RestAssured. Okay. So what is the chaining process? Suppose when you send a request, so we'll get some response. And from that response, we extract some data and we will use as part of the request to the another request. Like a response from one request becomes a request for another request. So for example, when I create a user, right? So when I create a user, which will automatically generate an ID. So based on that ID, we can try to display the user's data, and also we will try to delete the user. We will try to do update. We will try to update the user. So let's say Go REST API, and which is first when I say create request. So this will create an ID, and this ID we will use for get user and update user and then delete user. Okay, so this is basically called as a chaining. And not only these three APIs, if we have any other APIs, we can use this data as an input. So each and every request is interlinked. Okay, so let us try to implement this in the RestAssured. And here we use something called TestNG feature, TestNG XML file. So normally when you run your test cases in TestNG, we will run through XML file, right? So here XML file will play very, very important role. Not only ID, so if you have any other data, so that can be also used. So here I'm just giving some example with ID. Suppose if this request is sending some other response, suppose let's say email ID or first name or last name, and even that data also we can use in another request. Okay, so if you know at least one, how we can do for one variable, so rest of them you can easily do it because same process, no change, right? Only the data will be changed. So the process is same. So how we can get the data from this request and how we can use the data for another request. So that is a concept of chaining. Okay, you can use single field or multiple fields, but most of the times we have some common thing that is called ID. So many APIs normally create an ID, or we can say order ID or user ID or customer ID. So many times ID will become the common thing for all the requests. So that's the reason I'm taking this example. But if you have any other type of data also, we can still do it chaining process. Okay. All right. So now let's see how we can achieve this in the RestAssured. So let's go to the Postman. So in the Postman also, we have seen the chaining process, right? Let me open my Postman. And here we are using Go REST API. In the Go REST API, if we want to use it, we should create a token, right? So we need to have a token. Let me just go to Go REST chaining. These are the 4 type of requests we have created: create user, get user details, update user, and then delete user. So when you're creating the user, so we have to create a email ID, user email and username. So these things we have to create randomly. Like email address also we can create randomly because same data is not allowed every time when you create a new user. So in every round of execution, so we have to create a data dynamically. So that is one scenario we are going to see. And it is generated some ID. So from the response, we will capture the ID and we will pass the same ID in the other request. So in the Postman, we have a concept of variables, like environment variables, collection variables. So we will able to do that because we can set environment variables at the runtime on the fly, and we can use it in another request. But in the RestAssured, we don't have such type of concept. So we have to use a feature from TestNG. There is one feature in the TestNG. So by taking the help of that feature, we will able to achieve this. Okay. So now we'll see how we can do this. So to use these APIs, we need a token. So if I just go to create user, right? So we need a token, get user, update user, so delete users, all these things we need some token. So because the token is a commonly required, so I have created the token at the collection level. If I just go to the collection level authorization, bearer token authentication is required for this. This is the token ID, bearer token ID. So if you want to get this authentication token, so you have to first go to this GoRest API site, and there we have to sign up and get the token number. Say GoRest API. So this is their official website, right? If you just try to sign up first time, okay, it will go to, you can just click on the link, get your access token. So it will ask you like Facebook login or Gmail login or GitHub login, provide your details, and then it will generate the token. So earlier also I have shown you how we can do this along with the screenshot document also I have shared during the Postman session. So please go to the document, you will know exactly how to create the token for these APIs. So whatever token I have created that time, so same token still it will work. So I'm just trying to use the same token number. Okay, so there are 4 different type of requests I'm going to automate. So create user, and then display the user information, and update, and then delete the users. And authorization is what? The authorization is token authentication, bearer token authentication. So the sequence also we will compare. Okay, we will manage the sequence. So sequence should be like, because until unless you create a user, you can't update and you can't delete the same user, right? So the sequence also we have to maintain. Okay, so I'll show you how to maintain the sequence also, because this time we are using TestNG. So in the TestNG, we can specify the sequence in which order you want to execute them. One way is we can specify the priorities, right? So if we have all the tests, all 4 tests in one single class, we can specify the priority. Suppose if I create multiple classes, let's say create request is one class, right? Update request is another class, delete request is another class. If I write multiple classes, then how we can manage the order of execution? So that can be done through XML file. Okay, so all these scenarios we will see now practically one by one. So what I can do is go to RestAssured. Okay, go to Eclipse, and okay, same whatever we have done in the Postman. So same URLs I'm going to take, and same test data and same token I'm going to use in a RestAssured. So only the difference is here we do chaining process in the different approach, because we don't have a variables concept in RestAssured. Okay, so we will take the help of TestNG, and then we will able to achieve it. Okay, so let's go to RestAssured and create new package for today. So day 8. Okay, so this time there are multiple ways we can do it. So let me show you the approach 1. So for example, let us create one single class. Let's say I have one single class. Okay, one single class. I can create multiple methods, right? So one method is, let's say, create user, right? And get user, and update user, and delete user. If I create all methods in the single class, so then what we can do is we can manage one common variable. So we can create ID variable at the class level. And this ID, we can create by using create method. Actually, we can get the user details by using the same ID. We can update the details by using the same ID. We can delete the user by using the same ID. So this is the direct process. So here we don't have any other concept TestNG, not at all required. And if you manage the order, we can just specify the priority 1, priority 2, priority 3, and so on. Priorities we can add. So this variable become the common variable across multiple methods. So this variable we can update. Okay, we can create the value of this ID by using create method. Okay, we can get the details by using this ID. We can update the details by using this ID. We can also delete the user by using this ID. So we can achieve this very easily, because we have all methods in the single class, no issues at all. But suppose I have created one method or one test in the one class. This is the class 1. In the class 2, I created get user details. Class 3, I created update user. Class 4, I created delete user. Okay, so then I can't maintain the common variable across the 4 classes. So if you want to common variable, if you want to create where you will create, it is not possible here. So this is a different approach we have to follow now. So we don't follow this approach because it is a direct process. So if you have 4 methods in single class, we can create an ID directly and we can use it in every test method. So everyone can easily do it. So here we don't need any new concept. This is everyone knows concept. But if you have these methods in the different classes, right? So then how we can take the ID from this test and how we can pass it here, how we can pass in another request or another test. So this is the main concept we need to understand. So in this case, how we can manage the order of execution, and how to manage the variables, because ID should be there for all the requests. ID will be generated from the first request that should be required for rest of the request. So how we can manage that ID. So this is the main scenario which we need to understand. And the first one is, this is straightforward. Everyone can do it. We can write all 4 methods with single class. We can create a variable and we can use it in every request. But this is something new here. The chaining should happen. So let us see how we can do this approach. Clear this. Okay. So the first thing, I will create multiple requests. Like for create user, I will create one class. For updating user, I'll create another class, and so on. So for 4 types of requests, I'll create 4 different type of classes. Okay. So first, let us try to create one class, which is create user, new class. So my class name is create user. Okay, this is one class. I'll implement that later. Let me create one more class. I'll name it as get user. And then I'll create one more class, update user. And then another class, delete user. Okay, so now 4 different type of classes we created. So now let us try to implement one by one. So create user. So in the create user, we have to create a test method through which we will be able to create a user. So whenever you create a user, so what are all things we require here? So we need a URL. So you can just go to the Postman. This is the create user URL. And we need a body also, name, gender, email, status. So these are the details which we have to pass. And also dynamically we have to pass. We have to generate this data, right? And along with that, we have to use the bearer token authentication. So multiple things are here. So we can create a body. So we can create a body in whichever way you want. So earlier we have learned different ways of creating the request body by using hash map or by using POSO, by using JSON object, right? So we have different approaches, org.json. So we have different approaches to create a request body. So you can use any one of the approach. So this time I'm using, because hash map we already used it some time back, and also POSO also we have used. So this time I'm going to use something called org.json. So this is also one of the way to create a request body, right? So let me just show you. So void test underscore create user. So this is the method I'm going to create with the test annotation. Import this test annotation. Okay. So before writing given, when, then, all these things, we have to do something here. We have to first create a data. That's the most important. So data we have to dynamically create. At the same time, we have to create a request body. So to create a request body, we use JSON object class. And to generate the random data, we use a faker. Yesterday we have seen, right, faker library. So by using that, we will be able to do it. So in the pom.xml, we already added a faker dependency library. If I just go to pom.xml, so we already added this Java faker library. So we will be able to use all the classes and methods from this library. Okay, so before that, let me create some data, which is most important. So I can say faker. So how to create the dummy data? First, we need to create an object of faker class. Faker equal to new faker. So let's import this faker class. Okay, so by using this faker object, we can create data. And parallelly, what I'll do is this data I will use for request body, as use as a request body. So how to create a request body here? I'm going to use JSON object. So there are multiple ways we can do it. Hash map, we can use it. POSO class, you can create another class if you want. And this is another way of doing the another way of creating the request body. So I'm going to use JSON object. JSON object, and which is basically data. So JSON object data is equal to new JSON object. So this is actual required for creating the data. So now inside this JSON object, I will try to add the data which is generated by Faker. So how we can add the data in the JSON object? By using put method. So data dot put. And what is the first field we have to pass? Name we have to pass, name. And how to generate this name dynamically? By using Faker. We can say Faker dot name dot full name. I'm taking full name method. So this will automatically generate a name of the person. So Faker library name class and name method. Inside this, I'm calling full name, because in the name contains the first name, last name, full name, and so on. So many other methods. So I need full name. So I'm just taking full name here. So this will create a name of the user. Next, gender. So data dot put. So data dot put. Here, gender is another field. So I could not find the gender here, but anyway, we have to, while updating the details, we will also try to update gender. So I'm just hard coding the data for now. Gender, and then data dot put. And the next two is email address. We need email also, we have to generate. So from the Faker, we can generate the email. I say Faker dot internet dot email address. Email address. So this will generate the email address. So name, gender, email, and the status also required. Data dot put status. And here this value I'm going to hard code. Later I will update this value inactive. Currently I'm making as inactive. Later we will try to update this as an active. So this is the data which we have added to the JSON object. So now this is the JSON data. And how we have generated this data? By using Faker library. Okay, so the data is ready. So in this variable, our data is ready. Request data is ready. So ID will dynamically generate. Once you send a request, ID will be generated. So here we don't need to maintain ID. So 4 details we require: name, gender, email, status, and we need a bearer token authentication, right? So that also I can create one more variable here: string bearer token equal to. So whatever token I have in my Postman, so same token I'm going to use. If you don't have, you have to create your own new token. So do not use this token. This is my token, and then semicolon. Because instead of typing this entire thing in every test, I can just create a simple variable. I'm trying to do it. So this is a string variable. Okay. Now, so we have created the data, and also token is created. And now we will try to write the actual test. So here, to create a user, we have to do the post request. So I'm just saying given and when, and then. Okay, given, when, and then. So here, what are the prerequisites? So how we can pass this bearer token authentication? So bearer token, most of the times we pass along with the headers. Yesterday we have seen, right? So along with the headers we can take. So here we say headers. So dot header, we have to import static packages. So let me try to import static packages. Just a second. Okay, let me copy these static packages. So given, when, and then. So in the given, we have to add token along with the header. Yeah. So dot headers. Okay. So this is the method dot headers. Now here we say what type of authorization it is. It is a bearer token authorization. So the parameter is what? Authorization. And the second parameter is what? Bearer parameter. So this we have to add bearer token authentication. So is it enough? Do we need to add something else? So is it enough? Do we need to add something else? But just if I look at the Postman, so here in authorization, we have added this token. right? If I just go to the request, okay, so here this is the body section, pre-request test are there. So basically, whenever use bearer token authentication, we additionally use one keyword called bearer. Bearer keyword we have to use. So that also we need to add a prefix. Okay, so yesterday also I have shown you same thing. So that prefix I'm going to add here. Say bearer, bearer, and we have to give one space also. Many people forget to give space, and then you need to concatenate. So here the space is required. So you don't combine token along with the bearer. So there is one space is required. So I'm giving the space. So this is how we can use bearer token authentication. Now, what are other things are required? So we created JSON data here. So we are passing this as a JSON content. So content type also required. So content type is what? Application / JSON. So this is the content we are going to send. And along with that, we should also send a body, right? Because it's a post request, we have to send a body. Dot body. And here we already have data created. So pass this data directly. Because this is a JSON object, we have to convert that into string format. So for that, we can use toString. So this is a way we have to specify everything in the given. So these are all prerequisites. Now in the when method, we have to send a request. So how to send a request? By using post method. Post. And here we have to pass the post request URL. So this is the URL. I'm directly copying here. Okay. Fine. So here, when you send a post URL from the response, we have to capture the ID, and that ID will be used in another request, in another test. So that's the main concept. So we have to return the response. That's the most important. So what I will do is I will just remove the then section and put the semicolon here. Okay. So what happened now? So with this particular post request, we will send the response to us. So what is the return type here? Response. Response, res. I can create one variable like this. So I can import this response. So post request also will send the response, right? We'll get the response. So what this variable contains now? This variable contains a request body, so response body, headers, cookies, and all other status code, so much of information. But we don't need all these things here. We need only the response body. Again, in the response body, we need only ID value we have to capture, right? So no need to capture the entire response into the variable. So instead, what you can do, we can just capture only ID from the response body. So for that, what you can do is here, without ending this statement, I can write one more statement called dot JSON path. JSON path dot get int, because ID is an int, right? So I say get int. Here I will specify the field name, which is ID. So JSON path dot get int of ID. So whatever response this request is giving, from that response, by using JSON path, I'm capturing the value of ID. Okay, and when you put the semicolon, what happens? This will return that ID. So here the return is what? ID. And the type of this variable is what? Integer. So this is how we need to capture. So if you want to capture the ID from the response, you can do like this. And we no need to capture the complete response. We don't need status code, all these things. We need only ID from the response. So we can say JSON path.getInt of ID. So when you run this request, we capture the value into the ID. Okay. Right. So here somebody asked, so content type application / JSON content type. It will be application.json rather than application.json. Okay. So when you're passing this as part of the header, okay, so that time we will say application.json. Okay. When you're passing this content type as part of the header, but here we are not passing as part of the header, right? So then you can specify content type direct method. You can try in the both the ways. Okay. So you can pass this as part of header, then you can say application.json. But here we are just saying content type, so application / JSON is required. Right. So guys, is it understood now? So how we can send the request and how we can get the value in the ID. So once you send a request, post request, by using JSON path, I'm capturing the ID and storing that into ID variable. So now we are able to capture the value in the ID. So how to use this ID in another request, that we will see later. So first of all, with this test, we are able to capture the ID value, right? That's the most important. And after that, if you want to print that ID, you can print whatever ID is generated. System.out.println. I can say here generated ID is, I can just print ID. So later we'll see how we can use this ID in another test. For now, we are successfully able to capture the ID from the request. So that is the most important. So now let me just try to execute this. Did I put the test annotation? Yes. Run as TestNG test. Okay. So now we capture the ID here. So if you want to do some other validations, you can still do it. Because here we have captured only ID. Then if you want to do other validations, you can capture the response into the variable. Instead of ID, we have to capture the response into this variable. And from the response, you can do whatever validations you want to do. Along with that, you can also extract the ID. So that also you can do it. So that is another way we can do it. Because we don't need other response. So I have just captured the ID into the variable. If you want to do other validations, instead of returning the ID, just end the statement here and get the entire response into some variable. Then you have to capture the ID from the response. Response dot status code, response.id, response dot so and so you can validate. In the last classes, we have seen how to do validations on the response, right? All kinds of validations you can apply here. Okay, so let me remove this. So with this, we are able to generate an ID. Dynamically, it is generated. Let me run one more time. Okay, so you can see this is a generated ID. So every time this is going to change. Okay, this will not be the same. It is going to change. Okay, so the next thing is we have to use this ID in another test. So in another test, we have to use the same ID. So now we'll see how we can use it. So let's keep this one side and I'll create get user. So go to another request, which is get user. So what is the sequence here? First, we have to create a user. And then we have to use get user. And then we have to use update user and finally delete user. So this is a sequence. Yeah, so gender is also there somewhere. So I could not find that option. You can just check it. Okay, somewhere the gender also should be there actually. Everything is there. There are so many data, so much of data is available. You can just find out. Okay, so because I want to update those details in the next request, I just want to update the details. So I have hard coded them. So you can check there is some method available. Okay, so this is the sequence: create user, get user, update user, and then delete user. So from create user, we created an ID. So now in the get user, we have to get the user based on the ID which is generated in the previous request. Now let us try to implement the code. Get user. So I'm creating void test underscore get user. Okay, so this is test annotation. Okay, so let us try to implement. So here to get the user, what are all things we required? So I'll say given, when, so then. Okay, so what are all things we required in the given? So again, we have to import all the required static packages. So let me try to import them. Okay. So in the given part, so what we required, if you want to capture the data from the user, so header part we required, authorization is also required this API. So that is again same dot headers authorization, and we are using bearer token authorization. So the keyword is bearer space, and then the token we have to specify, right? So here we have to create a string token, string bearer token, because this is a different test, another variable we have to create. Okay, so string bearer token is equal to, so same thing, whatever token we used in the create user, so same token I'm going to use. Okay, so this we have to pass bearer token. So what else we required? So if I just look at the request, go to the Postman. Okay, so let us look at the get user request, get user details request. And here we have to pass user ID as a parameter. So along with this request, we have to pass user ID as a parameter, right? Now, can you tell me what type of parameter it is, query parameter or path parameter? Is it query parameter or path parameter? It is path parameter, right? It is a path parameter. Actually, this should come from the another test. This should come from the another test. So that we will see the chaining. So first of all, what I'll do is I'll try to hard code that value. Later, I will try to remove this. For now, I'm just creating a variable int ID. I'm not specifying any variable. So that should be part of the path parameter. So here I'm writing one more thing, path param. And what is a path param? ID. ID is ID. Parameter name also I'm giving ID. Just don't confuse. This is actually user ID. And this is a value I'm getting from this variable. So I have not added any ID here. Actually, this ID should come from another test, from the create user. So that I will show you later. So for now, I'm just creating the variable and just passing here as a path parameter. So here I'll write some comment. Okay, so this should come from create user request or previous test. But right now I'm just writing a comment. So later we will see how we can capture the value. So path parameter we have to pass. Now, what is the request here? The get request, what we should specify. Dot get. So here we have to pass the URL. So this is the path parameter, right? So path parameter in the sense what? We have to specify the path parameter name also. Because if it is a query parameter, we no need to specify. But if it is a path parameter, we should also specify. We have to refer this variable here. How to refer this? By using curly brace. Not double curly brace. It is a single curly brace ID. So this path parameter I'm referring inside the URL. So this will send a get request. And after that, we can validate the status code directly, because here we are not going to do any other things on the response. So status code we can validate 200, and also we can log the response. Log dot all, and we should not keep the quotations, double quotations here. Log dot all and then double quotations. Okay, so this is the actual test. Just a second. Okay, so here we define the ID. So this ID actually we are referring here. Initialize the variable. So initially it is having 0. So I'm just added. So this value we will get it from the another test. So for now we have just implemented get request. Okay, so I'm not running this for now. So before running this, we have to get this ID. That's most important. So if you want to get this ID, we already written this, right? So here we already written in this variable. So we cannot directly use this ID in the get user, because when you run these two tests using XML file, right? So then only we will able to capture it. Otherwise we can't. So only through XML file, we will able to do it. So for now, I will leave this test as it is. So once you create other two requests also, then we will create an XML file and then we will replace this value. Okay. So get user is created. Now let me save it. Now create another one, update user. So update is nothing but just almost equal to create user, but here we are trying to update the existing user. So let's create one more test here. Void here. Void test underscore update user. So this is a test annotation. So import this test annotation. Okay. So again, this is almost same as a create user. So let me just copy the same code, because the data also we have to update. Right? Same thing, almost same. But yeah. So we have to generate the data for updating the user. So here again, I'm updating the name, and previously it was female. Or if you want to update this as a male, now we can update this as a female, or previously it was inactive user. So now I'll make it as an active user. And gender also you can update if you want. Okay, so I have created full name, email address dynamically. Anyway, this will create a new user, a new name and new email ID. And inactive is there previously, now it is active. So almost 3 fields I am updating. And then bearer token, same thing. And now in the given session, headers we specified. Content type is also same. Okay, content type is also same. And what else? Body. So this body we have to send, right? So this body data we have to send. This is also same. And what is the additional thing we have to pass it here? So this is put request, right? So it's a put request. And here, do we need anything in the given part? Headers, content type, body. Along with that, do we need anything else? Do we need anything else? If you want to update the user, what is the input we required? For updating the user, ID is required, right? So which is created in the first request. The ID is also required. That is again path parameter, right? That also we have to pass here. So dot path param, and parameter name is ID, and the value is also ID, right? So this ID currently we are not getting from another test. So for now, what I will do is I will just create a variable here. And let's keep this variable like this, ID equal to, for now I'm just say 0. So later we will take this value from another test. Okay, so this ID I'm passing it here. So along with the request, users slash, in the curly brace we say path parameter, which is ID. This is a put request. And status code, here we no need to return anything, so I can just remove this statement, and directly we can write then, and inside that then we can do status validation. Just a second. And we are not going to get any ID, so I can just try to remove this. Then, so we can just verify some status code, that should be 200, and also log all the message, log dot all. Done. So this is a update user request. So here we are generating the data again. So we are trying to update full name, email address, and active status. So these are the 3 fields we are going to update. Same bearer token. And what are the things we have passed as part of given? So headers, content type, path parameter, and along with the body we have sent. So these options, order is not important, guys. You can write this path parameter after the body also, no problem. So here also you can keep, no issues. Okay, so we've specified required things, and we are passing this ID as part of put request and verifying the status code and everything. Again, I'm not going to execute this test now because we need this ID from the previous test. Okay, so now let me save this for now. So update is also done. Now go to the delete request. delete user. Again, for delete user also, we need an ID. So we need ID for delete user. Okay, let's write the test. Void test underscore delete user. Test underscore delete user. And here, for deleting user, what else we required? So only ID is required, right? So I'll create bearer token first. So let's capture the bearer token. Bearer token and ID. So these are only two things we require to delete the user. Okay, so string bearer token ID, and now I'm directly writing the given. And before that, let me import packages. Okay, just every time all packages are not required, but if I want to use special methods and classes, then packages are required to import. Okay. Let's try to import this. Okay, so in the given, do we need anything inside the given while deleting the user? Yes, we need headers. So that is same again, headers. And here, authorization, comma, bearer space, and then we need to add this bearer token. And what else we require? Path parameter, ID we required, right? So I'll say path parameter, ID, and the value is ID. Again, the same value we'll take from the another test later. So for now, I'm just defining only 0. And then come to when. So here we have to send a delete request. So dot delete. And in the double quotations, we can pass the delete request ID. So if I just go to delete user, and this is the URL. So here we have to pass ID as a parameter. This is the URL. Along with that, we should pass ID as a parameter. And validation, again, status code. Is there anything wrong here? Headers, path parameter, dot when, dot then. Okay, dot is missing. Okay, so dot status code, and status code is 204 this time after deletion. So dot log dot all. Okay, so this is the implementation of delete request. So all static packages are not required every time, guys, because if you want to use some validations inside the then, so we need to import something called matchers. And whenever you want to use given, when, then we have to import RestAssured, right? So every package is having their own methods, but better to import all of them, because we don't know which one is required when. So better to import 3, or else if you know exact package, so you can import only specific package. It doesn't matter. Okay. So we successfully implemented all 4 types of requests in 4 different classes. Create user, right? If you don't want unnecessary import packages, simply what you can do is, instead of deleting them one by one, you can place the cursor on one package, and you can see there is one option called organize imports. When you click on organize imports, it will automatically remove unwanted imports. You can see here, it is removed all unwanted imports. So you can use this option in Eclipse. Same thing here also. There are 2 packages are unwanted. So simply put the cursor there, click on organize imports. It is got removed. Only one import is required in this test. Similarly, other tests also you can do like this. Okay. So even if you have some additional imports, no problem. It will not impact anything. Right. So we created all 4 type of requests. But in the create user, we are returning the ID, but still we are not referring that ID in every other test. We are just hard-coded some value 0, but we are exactly not referring that value. So how we can refer that value in another test? So that's the most important crucial thing here. So to link this ID, between all the tests, the first and most important thing is in our test case, create user. Again, go to the create user. So here we are getting the ID in this variable. So currently we are printing this ID directly. So now we have to make this ID available to other tests also. We have to make this ID available to other tests also. How we can make it like that? So to make this ID available for other tests, we have to pass some parameter to this test method. What is that parameter is I test context. There is an interface in TestNG. That interface variable we have to pass. I test context. Okay. And for this interface, we will create some reference variable called context. Some variable is required. So this I test context, we have to import from org.testng. So that's the reason initially I told you we have to use some feature from TestNG. Then only it is possible. So click on here. So I define some variable inside this parameter. And the next thing is what? By using this context variable, we can make this ID available for other tests also. How we can make it available? Use this context variable here. So how to use it? Context dot here we use a method called set attribute. Which attribute we have to set? ID we have to set. So here I'm giving a different name called user underscore ID that we generated. And what is the value of user ID? ID. This particular statement will make this ID available to other tests. Clear? So here we have to pass one parameter, I test context. Basically, this variable contains a context of your test. Okay, so whatever you have done in this test, everything will be there in the context. So the context dot set attribute, we are setting one attribute to the context. What is an attribute? User ID. Whatever ID we generated here, that ID value I'm assigning to the user underscore ID. You can consider this just like an environment variable. In the Postman, we have an environment variables, collection variables, right? Similarly, here we are creating the variable actually. We are creating some environment variable or global variable, or you can call context variable, whatever name it is. What exactly we are doing after creation of this ID, we are generating the global variable. We are creating a global variable. So now this particular user ID, we can refer in another test. So how we can refer them? Now go back to the get user. So here initially we have I0, right? So here we have to refer. How to refer here? To refer that user ID, again, this test method also, we should pass context. So I test context variable. So here also we have to pass the same thing, I test context. And how to get the value into ID now here? To get the value into the ID. So previously what I have done, context dot set attribute method we used because we are creating this variable. Now we are getting the value from the variable. So what is the method we have to use? Context dot get attribute of which variable it is, which variable we created here, user underscore ID is a variable. So that we have to specify here, user underscore ID. So now what this method will do, this particular method will get the value from the user ID, which is generated in my previous request. That ID will be stored in this variable. So what is giving an error? We need to add casting integer. So we need to add some wrapper class because this get attribute method will return some object type. So object type we cannot directly save in the int variable. So convert that into integer, then save it into the variable. So this should come from the create user request. So this is the link. In the first create user, we are setting the attribute. In the get user, we are getting the attribute. Clear, everyone? So this is the one. So, but still we can't execute this test. Only through XML file we will be able to execute. I'll tell you why. Now, the same thing we should repeat for other request also. Save this and go to the update user. Wherever user ID, just replace this statement. And here we need to create I test context variable. So without creating this variable, you can't use context here. So here we say I test context. So import this ITest context. Okay, so now here also we are getting this value from the first request. Now save it. Same thing we repeat it for delete user also. So here replace this ID with this one. And again, context is required. ITest context. Okay, so done. So every request. So now create user. Here we are creating the attribute user ID, and that we are referring in every test. So here get attribute. Here also you are getting attribute, and here also getting attribute. So everywhere we are getting this perfectly fine. So the link is established. So now we can't run individual test because all four are linked together, right? So now we have to execute them only through XML file. Only through XML file we will able to execute. Right. So let's create an XML file and then try to execute. So in the TestNG, I hope everybody is aware of XML file. So in the TestNG, XML file will be used to run multiple tests. Okay. And it will also create a report also. So let me create an XML to run all the 4 tests. So directly I'm right clicking on the package. How to create our own XML file? We can create our own XML file, or we can automatically generate XML file. Let me generate an XML file automatically. Okay, so right click on the package, TestNG, and convert to TestNG. And this option will automatically create your XML. So where you want to create this, you can just browse, go to your project, SRC, test, Java, day 8. Then finish. So now the new XML is created. So TestNG.xml. So let's open this. Now you can see these are the different requests we automatically created. First, create user, and we will change the order here. So here we will control the order. First, create user, I want to execute. Then update user, and first create user, then get user, then update and delete user. So you can arrange these tags properly. So whichever order you specified here, in the same order, all the tests will be executed. So create user, get user, update user, and delete user. This is your XML file. Okay, so this is your XML file. So now when you run this XML file, then one by one, all the tests will be executed. So the ID from this create user will be used in every another test. So that's how it will work. So create user is done. So we are setting the attribute, and here we are getting the attribute. And same thing we have done in the update request, delete request, everywhere. So everything is done. So now let us try to execute our XML file and see how it is going to work. Right click, run as TestNG suite. So this is our generated ID. Yeah. So now totally how many I have executed? I think 4 we have done, right? But how it is executed? Only 3. I think we forgot to put test annotation for some method. Let us cross check again. Go to the test. I think something is missing. Let's see which one is not executed. Create user, get user, update user. Delete user is not executed. So go to the delete user. I think we have not put test annotation here. Yeah. So let's create test annotation for the method. Okay, so done. So let's try to run one more time. Close everything. And you can't run the tests individually, guys. You have to run only through XML file because there is a link between all the tests. Okay, so now all 4 got executed. So if I just look at this, this is ID 3682. Remember this 3682. And this is the actual record. Get record, get user we displayed. This is actual record. And you can see inactive inactive. This is generally, which is generated actually. So after updation, is got changed here. Same ID, but it becomes active. And even email address name is also got changed. So here you can see 204 is a no content. That's it for deletion request actually. So after deletion, we don't get any response. Only 204 is a status code. So total 4 have got passed and 4 have executed, 4 got passed. So all these 4 requests are internally connected. So we can link each and every request like this if we create a different classes. Okay. So this is the most important. Yeah. So yeah, bearer token, instead of repeating this, can we create a context? Yes, you can create, no problem. But we are okay. So we can still do it. But bearer token, if you can we add this bearer token to the context? Context.set attribute bearer token is equal to something. You can add it here. That can we refer the same thing in another request? Yes, you can still do that. You can still do that because that's a common variable, right, in everywhere. So you can still do that, no problem. So not only one single variable, guys. So you can just create multiple context variables. So here we just created only one variable. So we can also create multiple attributes and we can use those attributes another test. Okay, still you can do that. And one more thing, I'll show you something. Just hold on. So here we have created an XML file. In the same XML file, we prepared all the classes and successfully executed perfectly fine. But now my requirement is I want to execute these classes individually, not combined. So I will run these individual classes as a separate test. Right? So how we can create that? I can create one more XML file. I'll show you that. Let me create one more XML, TestNG 2. So here, instead of writing only one test, inside of one test, I created multiple classes. I have only one test here. So currently all classes are part of one single test. Now, instead of doing that, I will create multiple tests. See, this is one, this is another one. And this is another one. So in the first, I will run only get user. In the first test, I will run only get user. In the second test, in the first test, I will run only create user. Second test, I will run only get user. And rest of them, I'll try to remove. Okay. Now in another test, I will run only update user. I'll remove this. In the last test, I will run only delete user. This is my context. So this time I will run each and every class as a separate test. So in this case, will it work or not? Can you guess? Will it work or not? Whenever you create a multiple test, the test name should be different. Okay, so here you can just remove the thread count, not required. If you want to do any parallel testing, then it is required. Otherwise, you can just try to remove this. Okay, so here I'll say test 1, and here I'll say test 2, test 3, test 4. Okay, so now I've separated all the classes into different tests. So now, will it run or not? So previous case is what? All the classes are part of the single test. Single test, we have all the classes are part of one single test and it worked fine, perfectly fine. Now this time I have separated them into multiple tests. This is one test, this is another test, this is another test, this is another test. So will it work this time or not? So let us try to execute and see. Run as TestNG test. See, only one is got passed, rest of 3 got failed. So what is that passed one? Only first one. You can see here. Only test 1 is got passed. Test 1 means what? Only create user is got passed, rest of them are got failed. So why is it so? Why it is got failed? Whenever you create attribute, so if I say create user, whenever you create this attribute, set attribute, this is available only within the test. Okay, only within the test. So if you create all the classes in one test like this, then only that variable is accessible. Then only that variable is accessible only within the test. But now I want to make that variable accessible throughout the suite. Throughout the suite means what? Suite contains n number of tests. If I look at the second XML file, in the suite contains what? N number of tests. Now I want to make that variable available for suite level. But currently it is available for only test level. So within the test, we will be able to use it. But outside the test, we are not able to use it. So now what we need to do, we need to make that variable available at the suite level, not the test level. So currently this variable is created at the test level. Context.setAttribute method will create that variable in the test level so that we're able to access only within the test. But if you want to access this throughout the suite, so then we have to change the statement. So how to change the statement? Instead of doing that, we have to write something called same statement. We need to add something else. So I say context dot set attribute, same method, but before that, we need to specify that dot get suite dot set attribute. So this is the method. So if you write the statement like this, that variable is available only in the test level. But when you create this variable like this, get suite dot set attribute, this is available at the suite level. At the suite level. Now, again, we have to change this for others also. Go to the create user. We create user, we already done. Go to the get user. So here we are referring the test level variable. Now, if you want to refer the suite level variable, how we can refer? This is a test level variable. So suite level variable I want to refer. So simply here, what we will do? Instead of get attribute directly, we use get suite dot get attribute. Get suite. Right. So get suite dot get attribute. So this is a small change. Okay. So if you want to add in multiple tests, so same thing we repeat for other tests also. So this is get user, then go to update user. Even update user also, instead of doing this, we can write like this. And previous one just commented. So now this is available at the suite level. So from the suite level, we are accessing this variable. Now finally, delete user. So here we have to just replace and comment the old one. So here we are also referring the suite level variable. So everything is set. So this is the biggest change, guys. Okay. So now you can run the second XML. Now go to the second XML, TestNG 2.xml. So here we have created separate tests, right? Previously it got failed. Only first one is got passed. Now let us see all of them will pass or not. Right click, run as TestNG suite. Yes, perfectly executed. All 4 cases got executed, generated. So this is how we can achieve this. Now my question is, we have created all the tests in one single test. So here, so in that case, we just created get attribute variable, set attribute variable, and which is available in the test level. So if the variable is available in the test level, we are able to access within the test in all the classes. Right. So to make that variable available at the suite level, we have changed that statement. Get suite method we changed. So that variable is available in the suite level. Now, when I change this variable at the suite level, my second XML is working fine, perfectly fine. Now, can we run the first XML again? Will it run the first XML? When I run the first XML, will it pass or fail? Can you guess? Anyone? Can we run the first XML? So we have changed the statement according to the second XML. Right. So now again, come back to the previous XML file. I will specify all the classes in the same test. Can we run this XML file? Will all our test cases passed or failed? If it is passed, why it will pass? If it is failed, why it will fail? Okay, so let me just try to run this old XML. Yeah, still it is executed. The first XML also successfully executed. So why it is so? Why it is happened? The reason is, see, if the variable is able to access only within the test, we can't access this outside of the test, because suit is a higher level scope, right? So test is a lower level scope and suit is a higher level scope. Suit contains the test, but not test contains the suit, right? So if the variable is accessible only within the test, I cannot access this within the suit in another test. But if the variable is accessible in the suit level, that we can use in all test, right? That we can use in all tests. It's just like a local and global variable concept. Same concept is implemented in TestNG. Same concept is implemented in TestNG. So you can just look at this. This is my suit. Okay, inside the suit, this is my whole suit. So here, test one. Here I have a test two. So I have created variable here. And can we access this variable in outside anywhere else? The test two or suit? No, right? So we have n number of tests, but this variable is limited to only this test. This is the first case. So if you create this variable at the suit level, this variable can access in every test. So this is the concept actually. So that's the reason. If you set this variable at the suit level, we can access everywhere. In the first approach, we created this variable only with the test level. So that's the reason the second XML is not working. But if you create that variable at the suit level, both XMLs will work fine. Okay, so this is the concept, guys. So this is how we can do the chaining process. Through XML file, we'll be able to achieve this. So not only ID, you can also return anything and you can refer anything. But only thing is you have to create multiple variables here. You have to create multiple attributes. Then you will be able to do that. Same thing for token also. You can also create one more context.getSuit.set attribute token is equal to something. Okay, so you can also specify that. And that token you can specify again in the header part. In every test, you can specify. It is just like a replacement. Yeah, that is an order. Suit, which contains a test contains the class contains a method. That's the TestNG hierarchy. Okay, so this is called chaining process, guys. So you guys can try this today. And once you successfully done this, next one, you can also try the same concept for students API. So we already have local API, right? So just start your students API and try to do the same chaining process for the student API. So create a student, get the ID, and then try to update, delete the update, display, update, delete the student based on the ID. So same thing, just apply it for some other type of API. So you can just try to use student API, which is created in your local system, and you can try to do that. Okay, so that's your homework. You guys can try that. Fine. So I'll also upload the solution student API. So you can try this chaining for today, and which is very, very important. Okay, clear everyone? Okay. So this is your assignment for you guys today, because this is most important to start your framework from tomorrow session. So in this, there are so many models are there. Like say, you can say pet model is there, store. Okay. And here, these are different models are there. User. So different models are there in the Swagger document. So what you need to do is, you based on this Swagger, you have to create your own test cases. Take the user module. Okay. Take the user model. In the user module, there are so many types of requests. Post request, get request, put request, delete request. Many types of requests are there. Okay. So what you need to do is, you have to write your own test cases for them. So you can just go through each and every Swagger option and check what is the content we have to send, and what kind of request you have to send, what kind of status code you are getting. So based on that, prepare some Excel sheet which contains a mainly at least URL. Okay, and request body, what type of request you have to send, what type of URL we have to use, what kind of request body we have to send, what is the status code which we need to get. So have these columns in the Excel sheet, and accordingly just write your own test case. At least write 4 to 5 test cases, because there are no number of
there are no many number of requests here, just 5 to 6 are there. So you can just try this, write a small Excel file and create your own test cases. And tomorrow I'll review those test cases, and we will try to automate those test cases using framework. So we are going to design a RestAssured framework, hybrid driven framework, and we will see that how we can proceed further. Okay, but base is the test cases. You have to create your own test cases, and accordingly we'll proceed further. Okay, right? So this is your assignment, and write and keep it with you. And tomorrow I'll tell you how to share that Excel sheet, and accordingly we proceed further. And tomorrow we'll start framework development from the scratch. We will take one API, user API, the same API we are going to take, and then we will try to develop framework step by step. Okay, so that's all for today's session. I'm just stopping here, and tomorrow we will continue.